one altercation we had was he had grabbed me by the throat and slammed me against the wall. My dad was present. He was staying with us for a couple weeks, and he just walked up to him and said, you better think twice before you hit my daughter. And he just, he's like, why? What are you going to do, old man? And my dad said, it's not what I'm going to do. It's what she's going to do.
Welcome to Awaken to Freedom. I'm your host, Jada, and here we explore the journeys of women who have stepped away from high control religions, cults, or toxic traits. This show is about healing, reclaiming their voice, and embracing true liberty. If you'd like to see our faces, head on over to the YouTube channel and hit like and subscribe. Please feel free to interact with the comments because that helps boost our algorithm and lets more people view our videos. So with that, let's get started. Welcome to Awaken to Freedom. My name's Jada, your host, and today I am interviewing Tammy. And Tammy was in an abusive relationship for 15 years and is so bravely willing to tell her story of how she left that situation and moved on with her life to become an award-winning author. So with much further ado, this is Tammy. Welcome, Tammy.
Hey.
It's lovely to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that you had been in a toxic relationship for 15 years. So can you tell us what that was like?
Well, I was with him since I was 19. It was, I kind of jumped into he already had a son. So I became a stepmother right away. When I was 21, I became a mom for the first time biologically. And then again at 22, so I was a very young mother, and there was 11 years difference between him and I. So it was kind of a power dynamic with him. He was an alcoholic, still is. And it was ups and downs. It was, there were good days, there were bad days. But yeah, it was fairly, yeah.
I can relate. I had a very toxic first marriage too, so I completely understand the psychological abuse that goes along with that.
Yeah, definitely. It was like living with Jekyll and Hyde. And I think near the end, it was more of preferring to live with Hyde than to see Jekyll, because Jekyll was the liar, oh, I love you, I'm sorry, I won't do it again, all this stuff. But it was easier to live with Hyde because, Hyde was consistent.
You know what to expect. Right. Yeah. And you had children as well?
Yeah, well, from that relationship, I had children, two children with him. I didn't have any when we got into it. He had a son.
Oh, yeah.
So there ended up being 3 children altogether out of that relationship.
Right. And so this went on for 15 years. Yeah. What was it that triggered you to finally leave that situation?
My son going into the hospital and dealing with children's services. It was, I'd laughed several times. Like they say, you leave, the average woman leaves at least 7 times before she finally leaves for good. For me, it was children's services coming to me and saying, you have an ultimatum. It's the kids or him. And you have to go to the court tomorrow or Monday morning. I think it was a Friday. They told me, they said, Monday morning, you have to go to the courts and you have to get a protection order and have him removed from your house, or we take the kids. And of course, I wasn't going to let them take the kids. So I went to the court, and they said there was going to be help and counseling and someone to kind of hold my hand and walk me through it. But when I got there, there was no one. I was alone. I did it all by myself, stood in front of the judge, just with duty counsel. And they said there's no one available to be with me. And they're the ones that sort of forced the hand. So I had to continue to go through it. And it was definitely, it's something that needed to be done. But it definitely was a difficult thing to go through.
Yeah, for sure. Now, are you comfortable sharing with the type of abuse that you went through? Was it mainly psychological, or were you going through
mental abuse, emotional abuse, a lot of verbal threats. Well, it didn't get violent until closer to the end. Um, I'd say about 5 or 6 years before it finally ended, that's when the violence was starting here and there. But it wasn't, it was more things like throwing stuff, like throwing letters at my head or, just shoving me out of the way and stuff like that. So it wasn't like full on punches or anything like that. One altercation we had was, he had grabbed me by the throat and slammed me against the wall. My dad was present. He was staying with us for a couple weeks. And he just walked up to him and said, you better think twice before you hit my daughter. And um, he just, he's like, why? What are you going to do, old man? And my dad said, it's not what I'm going to do. It's what she's going to do. And then my dad grabbed the kids and walked out of the house and took them to get ice cream, got them out of there. And my ex at the time, he had no idea what I had no idea what I was going to do. But yeah, he just let go of me and he left and he went away, went and stayed with a friend for a couple of days. And then he came back. And I even asked my dad, I said, what did you think I was going to do? He's like, well, I didn't raise you to put up with that kind of stuff. And I was hoping you would see that you don't need to put up with that, right? You need to fight back. You need to, say no. You need to get away from him. And that was kind of the first, inkling of, yes, I do need to get out, right? So,
So when you said you left him about quite a few times. What drew you to go back?
well, in a way, it was the oldest. He was my stepson, but I didn't adopt him. So whenever I left, I couldn't take him with me. Otherwise, it would be kidnapping. And he
Oh,
was very suicidal and very like a very angry person. And he threatened many times that if I'd have left him, that he would kill our oldest and then kill himself. And so that really put it
oh my God.
into, like the one time when it happened, the police actually asked me, is there someone that can stay with him then? They didn't take us to the shelter until one of his friends had come with a police officer to the house to stay with him. And I went back that time because his friend's like, I can't stay with him anymore. Right? I have my own life. I have my own family. I can't keep babysitting him. He's getting help. I took him to counseling and all this stuff. So that's when we went back. That was the last time that I'd left him before the one for good, right? And he kept up with his counseling. He kept up with his seeing the doctor and getting on meds and things like that. But then we moved from uh, where we were out to Calgary, and then the drinking started again, and everything started because no doctor and nothing like that, no resources. So he kind of fell off the wagon, and that's when it started all over again.
And so the one that you said when you didn't go back the last time is when your son went into the
Yeah,
hospital?
my son had been hospitalized. He my his little sister had come to me and said he can't swallow, and I'm like, what do you mean he can't swallow? He's choking. He's like, no, he hasn't been able to swallow for a few days. And like they were teenagers, so he was 13. So he would take his food and dinner and like so that we didn't like he didn't have to be around his dad. They'd all like eat in their rooms, right? Take their food, go eat in their rooms, you know. But he wasn't eating. He was chewing up the food and spitting it out and then throwing it in the garbage. He couldn't swallow and he wouldn't tell me. And his sister told me, and I went in and he's like, I can't swallow. So I took him to the hospital. And this was pre screening for his autism. So he was acting, he didn't like doctors, he didn't like being touched, didn't like being poked. So they told me the social worker at the hospital said, his kidneys are bad. He hasn't drank water. He hasn't done it in over a week, is what he had told the doctors.
Oh.
And I had no idea. I was working two jobs trying to keep up, and make sure that, everything was going right. And they never told me. So the doctor and the social worker said, we'll admit him into the hospital, but you have to stay with him. So I had to call my work and let them know I wasn't going to be into work for a while. I thought I was going to lose my job. I didn't, but I had a good boss. She didn't let me go. But I lived in the hospital with him for 3 months, and it was at the end of those 3 months that the social worker came to me again and said, like, there's abuse in the home, it's either the kids or him. So you have to go to the courthouse on Monday and get a protection order and have him removed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that would do it, wouldn't
Oh
it?
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
definitely, yeah.
Hmm.
And I mean, my son was in the hospital. They moved him from one ward to another. They moved him down to the psychiatric ward, thinking that it was just a psychiatric issue. Um, and then, yeah, the other two were at home all the time. So
So that had to be that's very brave of you to go, because this has got to be happening fairly quickly. You're told one day that
yeah.
you can't go back home, basically.
Basically they told me, yeah. So I went on the Monday. I went to work because I had gone back to work. Because obviously he was in a different ward now. I couldn't stay with him. So I went back home and I started back to work part time. And so I'd gone back on the Monday to work, and instead of I left my car at work, and my work friend gave me a ride to the train station so I could take the train downtown to the courthouse. And if he did ride the bus past my work, he would see my car still there, so he wouldn't know that I wasn't at work. Because he'd do that from time to time, ride the bus, check up, make sure I'm still at work. And
Oh my God.
yeah, then yeah, I went to the courthouse and I went and saw duty council. And I know the social workers there said there'd be someone there to hold my hand, kind of thing, stand beside me while I'm going through this, while I'm standing in front of the judge, pretty much begging for a protection order. And the duty council, she said, "Oh, you're probably not going to get this. Too many women are always asking for these." Like it was, like they're trying to hand them out like candy. And
Oh.
I'm like, "No, I need to get this, because if I don't get this, I lose my children." And she goes, "Fine, only answer the judge yes or no, and don't give any more than unless the judge asks for it." And so the judge did ask. She asked me to elaborate on a few things, and I did. And she was like, "Well, that's it. You get it." She slammed her gavel down. She goes, "I've heard enough. That's it. You have a temporary
Oh,
interim
good.
order, and you have to um, get the order signed downstairs, and then take it to the police station." And by the time I got out of court, I had to go back to work. So when I got back to work, I left, I went home, I got the kids, I went and visited my son in the hospital, and I was trying to get a hold of the police. Well, most detachments close at 5 o'clock. So we were waiting from basically 5 o'clock until 1 in the morning in my car with my the two other kids, in a McDonald's parking lot, for the police to just decide that it was time for them to serve this order. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, they did. They went and removed them from the house. And when we left, my kids had
Wow.
cleaned the house before we left. When we left, or when we got back, the house was completely trashed. He didn't know where we were. He didn't know what was going on. Dishes, stuff was pulled out of the fridge. It was absolutely trashed. And uh, it the police officer had mentioned something when he came back to see me to let me know that yes, this has been served. And he's like, "You really need to learn how to keep a better house." And he is
Oh.
very chauvinistic and very, very like misogynistic about it all. And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And that's when I walked in the house, I'm like, "Oh, this is what he saw, but this isn't how we live." Right. So it was definitely, yeah, uh, I was a little ticked off at him for that. A few days later, though,
Yeah.
even though they took him away, they took him to the psych ward instead of to jail or to the
Mhm.
hostel or wherever. And so the psych ward let him go. And 2 days later, he was knocking on the door again. And our oldest picked up the phone and called 911. He goes, "You have to call the police." And after the interaction I'd had with the officers the other night, I didn't want to call them. I didn't feel like, I thought maybe he'll just go away, right? But he kept banging and banging and banging on the door. And so my son calls 911, hands me the phone, and a group of nice officers showed up, and they went looking for him, and they found him at a bus stop, and they asked him, "Why were you knocking on the door?" And he goes, "Because I was bored. I wanted to go home and watch TV." And just the way his
Oh
mind
my
was,
God.
all over the place.
Like he did nothing wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. And landed him
Wow.
that landed him 2 weeks or a week or 2 weeks in the federal jail because the local holding cells were full from riots that had taken place like the day before. So he had to wait 2 weeks in the federal jail to see a judge because they were processing everybody, and it was, and yeah, he just got a slap on the wrist and don't do that again. So
You're
yeah.
kidding. So he was never charged with anything.
No, just told don't do that again.
Did he ever come back again?
No, he didn't.
Did he ever try again?
No, after that, I think he learned his lesson after that. He did text occasionally and more like just to see how the kids were doing and stuff like that. But I'm like, they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to see you. He said he understood. And then it was quiet with him for a while. And then he was seeing an advocacy group, and they actually launched an action against me to try and get custody of the kids on his behalf.
Oh.
So once again, I'm dragged into court. Luckily, I had the same judge that I had gotten when the custody, the parenting, full parenting order was granted. It was the same judge. I just got lucky,
thank
and
God.
he goes, I don't know what you plan on doing when he's living in a homeless shelter. Where are the kids going to live, right? And so he kind of threw that one out. But I mean, it was just an inconvenience having to take the day off of work and
yeah, right. And I mean, the thing is he was like you were told to leave and go to court to get the kids out, or they were going to take them away. Either he goes or they go, and now they're considering giving him custody.
This is a whole other agency of social workers that worked with homeless people. And they were trying to help.
Okay, so they didn't know the story.
Yeah, they didn't know the whole story, and they just thought, oh, well, it's, we see too many fathers not being able to see their kids. Well, he had every chance to stand in that courtroom when the full parenting was going to be offered. I saw him in the courthouse, and when our names were called, he got up and he walked out. So he didn't even show up, and that's why I was granted full parenting. Because he
well, thank God.
And then or he changed his mind about fighting it. And then so I was granted custody, and it was one of the first times that a judge that judge had ever granted custody to a step parent for the stepchild.
Wow.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because I got custody. I finally got custody of the oldest one, right? And I knew that was one of the other ultimatums. Was I'm like, I need custody of him as well to keep him safe. And I want all three of them together. And the judge agreed to that.
Right. Oh, wow. So now you're a single mom with 3 kids. So what what type of healing did you do? Did you go to therapy? What was the process of trying to unravel from all this abuse?
I fell back on writing mainly. That was my therapy. I did speak to my son's therapist, like that he was seeing, and we had a few conversations. One of the questions she asked me was, "Well, why didn't you leave?" And I'm like, "That's not the question you ask someone in this kind of situation. It's why did you stay?" Because we all know we have to leave. That's a given. We know we have to leave, and we try to leave over and over and over, but we keep coming back. It's why did we stay? And that's when I told her sometimes it's easier to live with the monster than to live with the guilt of what would happen if you leave. I mean, there's a lot of women out there, they leave and they get hunted down and they get shot and killed, or they get, attacked, or they, their lives are dragged through the mud because they've left. And leaving is sometimes scarier than staying in the situation you're in, right? Like I mentioned to you before, it's like Jekyll and Hyde is so consistent. You know what eggshells to walk on with Hyde. You know he's going to be mad at certain things, so you don't do those things. You know what to do when there's Hyde, but when you have Jekyll coming in, bringing down your guard, going, "I'm sorry, I love you, it's okay." I won't do this again. And then 2 seconds later, you have something flying at your head for no reason. It's, it was easier to live with the monster than to live with knowing that he would possibly, try and, commit murder suicide, you know? And, I left the oldest at home. So it was, in a way, I stayed for the oldest to make sure he was safe, to make sure the kids were safe, to
Right.
protect them from the violence that he was capable of.
Right. And you said that you took on writing was very therapeutic for you,
Yes, writing.
and obviously became an award-winning author. So
Yeah.
tell us a bit about that journey,
Um,
because that's amazing.
yeah.
Wow.
I've been writing my whole life. I mean, I think since I was like 7 years old. My cousin gave me a journal, and she was a teacher, and she gave me this little journal, and I started writing in it and making up stories and stuff like that. And I always enjoyed creative writing in school. And then I just over the years, when I'd feel stressed or down, I'd just start writing, and I just started writing stories. One of the ones I was actually working on while I was with him was a story called Think Tank. And in a way, the main character is kind of based on him, like just his personality is kind of based on him, and it just kind of helped me write out, you know, uh, just get it out of my system in a way,
Process.
process it, get it out of my system, realize, that you know, I'm only as strong as I can be, and I can only be as strong for my kids if I need to take care of myself and you know process everything. So yeah, writing's very therapeutic.
Right. And you've gone on to write, you said three or
Three,
four books?
I've short stories right now. I do have a few novels in the works, but I've been published 3 times in anthologies. And the first one was actually Think Tank. That one got published in I don't think of the name of the anthology now. That was in a first run anthology. The second was The Darkening, and that was more about diving into mental health in a way. It's just about a woman who's locked away in a mental health facility, and she's making amends with her demons, and just slowly accepting who she is for what she's gone through. And that one was in Cranial Leakage, Volume One, so it was the first volume, and then the other was it was called The Waiting Room, and it's a paranormal afterlife. It follows a little girl, Savannah. Her and her mother passed away, and they end up in the waiting room, which happens to be a hospital, and it's kind of like purgatory. They're stuck. They're waiting to go to heaven or the afterlife, and it's where they wait for their angel lights to come, and it's her. Um, it was meant to be a serial story, but so I just submitted the first part as a short story, and it was one of 5,000 entries, and it placed in the top 10. So it was, yeah.
That's phenomenal. Wow, good for you. You should be very proud of
Oh, I
yourself.
am. That was a big accomplishment. Especially when
Absolutely.
the publisher he mentioned to me that he goes he knew when because his staff were the ones that read and judged, and he said he knew who was reading what story by how hard they were crying.
Oh, oh, wow.
So yes, yeah.
Well, I'm going to post the links. Uh, I'm going to post the links to your books. So anybody who's watching that would like to have a read of what Tammy has published can click the links below so that they can have a look and have a read. Do you have any words for any women that are in this situation like you were?
Mhm.
Is there any words of encouragement you can give to help them?
There is light at the end of the tunnel. Resources are your best friend. Use them no matter what they are. I wouldn't have gotten through that first year on my own with my kids without the resources that were available. And yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Right. And can you elaborate on the resources maybe that you did use?
Oh gosh. Well, the food banks, went to the food banks regularly. There were there was a lot of clothing resources. There was a lot of furniture, rehousing, rehoming. There were a lot of resources like for helping abused women get back on their feet. So any type of things like that.
Right. And I guess women's shelters as well
Women's
is,
shelters,
resource when you,
definitely, yes.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes, women's shelters,
Yeah.
even like going to uh, welfare, the ministry, they will help with if you
Mm-hmm.
want to leave town. They will buy you a bus ticket or a plane ticket to get you to your family or to safety if you need to. But it's about asking for help.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they did
Right.
try purchasing me bus tickets at one point when I left, but I didn't use them. I gave them back to the shelter, and they gave them back to the ministry to cancel because I'd gone back. And but I did. I had bus tickets in my hands, ready to go. But there were issues with
Wow.
me.
So who, right. So who provided that for you? Was it the ministry or was it the women's shelter?
It was the ministry through the women's shelter. They called them up. They said she has somewhere to
Oh,
go
okay.
if you will help us. So I'm not sure how it is now. I mean, that was quite a few years ago. But if the ladies that the women's shelter, they are phenomenal when it comes to helping. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of other resources out there. Like right now, uh, my ex-husband and I, not that one. My
Ex-husband
yes,
number
there's
two.
two. My current my yes, my youngest daughter's dad and I work doing deliveries. We help and I'm a woman helping women, and we help deliver furniture and different any kind of items that they'll need. They help women get back on their feet. And it's a great resource, and they can also point you in the direction of other resources. So for locally my area,
Right.
that's exactly one of the places that are brought up time and time again when you need help, right? That use that as a resource, and any town, any city, anywhere, you just look up the resources for women's,
Yeah.
and it will be there. Yeah. And I mean, for men as well, there are men's centers as well for men that are in abusive relationships trying to escape, because there is that there. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of men's centers or shelters that will help men as well.
Right. Right. Well, what a lovely way for you to give back to be helping with the Nanaimo Women Helping Women. I know that has been a very huge resource for a lot of women. And I've noticed, because other women have mentioned, these type of groups are popping up
Mhm.
all over the place
Yes.
where women are getting together specifically to help women escape situations like that
Mhm.
and give them the resources they need and the help they need. And
Mhm.
I just think that's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
and yeah,
Yeah.
the women's resources, even the Big Brothers Big Sisters. They will have you have kids. They
Oh,
have a lot of different programs for the kids. I
yeah.
reached out to them, or was connected to them for my son when he got out of the hospital, so he could have a big brother, so he could have someone else to talk to and hang out with, and get back on his feet as well. So they do have a lot of programs like that.
Right.
Lots of stuff for kids out there as well.
Right. Well, that's a great resource because obviously your son would have gone in the hospital and came back to no father, right?
Yeah.
So that yeah, that's a great resource to have.
Mhm.
That's got to be, a lot on a kid
Oh
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a big help knowing that he came out of his shell after that. So
Oh, that's awesome. That's so good. Yeah. We do really have a lot of resources that, and some things that a lot of women, when you're in that, it's almost like if you can know this now and be prepped for it, even
hmm
to line up those resources for when you do decide to
yes,
go,
definitely.
that in itself, because if you're in that moment when it's flee, you know, get out now.
Yeah.
It's so overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. What do I do? Where do I
Yeah.
go?
So
How do I?
preparedness is, getting them lined up.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much for telling your brave story. You are an incredible woman, and I know that this will resonate with a lot of listeners who are, because unfortunately this happens a lot. I think it happens, it's almost like a Me Too movement, but with abusive
Yeah.
situations. It happens way more often than we think. And a lot of us, I was the same way when I was in it. I didn't talk to anybody about it.
Yeah.
Nobody knew. I was so, I was so horrified and that this was happening to me that I didn't ask for any help
Hey,
until the end. And then I did ask for help and I got it because people are willing to help.
yeah, yeah, and I think for me, my
Absolutely.
father was the one that kind of triggered the ask for help because he's like, your brothers and I are here for you, and we will help, but you need to be the one to ask for the help. We can't just come in and tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And that kind of
Right.
triggered me to go, oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, well, maybe when I'm ready, I'll ask for help. But for me, I never felt like I was ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on here today and telling your story. That was very inspiring how you have, you left, rebuilt your life,
Mhm.
and now you're an award-winning
Yeah.
author. That's amazing. So, uh, yeah, so appreciate you coming on here and thank you.
Thank you for
Just
having me.
thank you.
Thanks.